What? I'm late again? Dang it. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. How are you? Jenny, good to see you. Happy belated Mother's Day to you as well. Um, my name is Deanna, and I'm streaming out of Humboldt County about Humboldt County to Humboldt County and anyone else who cares. And in case you didn't know, we were going through a study around here called the 5,000 Year Leap. And we are learning principles. We are learning principles, which is a novel concept and one that we need to all get on the same page with. It should be very simplified for us. Thank you to everybody who has been following along with this study. I don't even know three-quarters of the people who actually watch this. I got my people that say hello to me, and I really appreciate that. But you guys on Rumble, lurking on, any of my haters watching me, what's up? Maybe you'll learn something, you know? Today's lesson is going to be on equal rights, not equal things. Hi, Benjamin. Good to see you, honey. I remember that being one of the first principles that was being taught to me. I'm pretty sure Devil Dog, well, I know he's the one that brought that principle to me, but I only remember that one really sticking out in my mind when he was trying to teach me things. So it's a great one to grasp a hold of. We're going to be talking about communism and not so much socialism, just really communism. We're going to learn about, well, we're going to refresh about Eldridge Coolidge. Was that his name? Not Cleaver? Oh, darn it. Dang, memory's shoddy, man. We're going to go through the quiz first of the lesson 6. Look at my notes, you guys. Whoa, look at that. Dee's a study maniac. She likes to learn. I love to read, you guys. Reading is the magic key to take you where you want to be. Do you remember that? Where's my mirror? And I see Benjamin and I see Jenny. Remember that mirror? I should get me one of those. I should totally get me one of those. So anyway, I do have the answers to the study. So let me share my screen and you guys can follow along with the questions. This is a very quick read today. Super quick read today. And the quiz is also fairly easy since I have all the answers. So let's go. Let's do this thing. If you didn't know, you can catch me live on standuphumble.news on the Constitution tab. I'm running on Twitch. So if you are one of those people that gets really annoyed about all the places that social media people are and having to keep up, I've pretty much stayed with YouTube, although sometimes I have to delete my streams. And I've stayed on Rumble. I'm on Facebook, Twitch, and BitChute is where I upload short bits. And it's where I chose to go ahead and upload all the things that we went through in the COVID time, you know, with people being crazy, losing their ever-loving mind. There's a lot there on BitChute. And you can find that if you just go to the About page on the standuphumble.news. So what is going on? Get out of here. I'm trying to get down to the quiz. I think it was under lesson 6 because these two were together. So let's go there and let's begin. So let's see. Session 8. Okay, here it is. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I super appreciate you. Sandra Mary. Hello. Hello. Oh my God, we need to block her. She sounds like a bot. Send me your left palm. I don't do palms. I don't do that. Are you a real person or are you a bot on Facebook? Because I said Facebook while I was streaming. Then this come up. That's how bots work, you know. If you put up on Facebook that you've been hacked, Oh my gosh, within a few minutes, you are going to get many, many links for cyber businesses and click Facebook, bot, meta, blah, blah, blah. So be careful. And people that get themselves all bent out of shape over bots and trolls, they don't even realize you're dealing with bots and trolls. They have common critiques and criticisms for people just to twerk you out. I try not to let them distract me. I try not to let them bother me. I just like to call them out for what they are and then ignore them. Like the grifters. Like the popular grifters. Okay, here we go. Number 1. Human beings can be treated equally in 3 ways. Name them. In the sight of God, in the law, and in our rights. 2. Name the French philosopher who claimed all men are born equal in every way. Well, his name was Jean-Jacques Rousseau, but he was wrong. Okay, he was wrong. The founding fathers studied all kinds of ways of governing people, human nature, history, idealisms, and they decided, we're not going to go the way of this guy. Okay. He was a socialist. He thought that government should control all of the means of productions. That is what socialists think. 3. Different groups of people do not have different rights. They are only equal rights, and each person has them. 4. Every ethnic group in America was once a minority. 5. The process of becoming assimilated into American culture is called crossing the cultural gap. 6. Name 3 things a person must do to become part of the American culture. I do have a few. I have 4 or 5 things here. I have 4 things here. 1, learn the language, which is English. 2, become educated. 3, become economically independent. And 4, become a social asset. Become a productive member of society. 7, one of the best examples of minorities making the adjustment into American culture are the Japanese and Chinese. And we will talk about that. Let me talk about that a little bit. So the man referred to the Americans as having fits on these people, which is a really nice way to talk about the camps that they put these people in. Roosevelt put in camps. They were denied freedom with the FBI. And but what did these people do? What was really remarkable about these cultures was that they did encourage, and many of their children assimilated into our culture, joined the military, and went to war. And they didn't send them over to those Pacific Islands, but they did become some of the most decorated in our military. Let's see, is there anything else I could say about this? I got my notes are all over the place. I should definitely get a different piece of paper. I think that's most of it. 8. Leaders of black militants who tried to use force to obtain equal rights were the Black Panthers. One of their leaders was Eldridge Cleaver. Now, I have a lot of notes in here about Eldridge Cleaver. What I found fascinating when I was watching my guy on the video that came with this kit that my friend Devil Dog sent to me, you guys, with all these DVDs, which we're not watching. I'm watching them for you. They're like 35 to 45 minutes long. And so he puts some extra tidbits in there. And so that's what a lot of these notes are. So Eldridge Cleaver actually toured around with dude that I'm watching. Because Eldridge Cleaver was a total radical. And when there was the battle, there in 1968, there was 100 cities burning across America by these leaders who tried to force and obtain equal rights through violence. And in Oakland, at that battle, one of their leaders was killed and Eldridge Cleaver was injured. And it was then that he fled. And he wanted to flee to communist countries. He thought they were so great. So he set off to Canada And then he went to Cuba and Russia, the Soviet Union. He actually went to training school in North Korea to learn about communism. And he had a change of heart. He had a revelation, if you will, and realized that he was wrong. He didn't like seeing the way people were being treated. And he repented. And he came home one day and he told his wife, "We must return to America." She's like, "What? Are you crazy? You're going to be..." He fled because he was a fugitive. They were going to lock him up. Well, the statutes of limitation had passed, and because his crime was that he had had a weapon, I believe, is what was said in the story. And so, because he'd already been arrested and he'd already been a felon or whatever, so that was his crime. Statutes of limitations was up. He came back to America, having repented of communism and realized that there was more freedom and opportunity in America than any other country because he had gone to them. And so the reason why he was able to travel with Mr. Man, which I should learn his name, is that he was sentenced to 300 hours of community service. So what he would do is travel with Mr. Man to the colleges. And he said it was really quite sad because he would try to talk to these kids that were really convinced that communism was the way. And, you know, he could just see them he was being rejected a lot. He was being rejected a lot. And so very frustrating, you know, when you do a 180 on your beliefs. I know. And then all of a sudden you're trying to talk to people that used to believe like you did. And I've always believed in America, our rights, our foundation, God, those things. I haven't always lived the way that exemplified that, but I definitely have had that. So some of the notes I have, one of the things that really stuck out to me was that liberty produces inequality. Because you're always going to have people that will work harder than others. And that's just a fact, Jack. And that's why I really love that passage, and maybe that'll be what we'll go to at the end here, in Scripture about the talents and the wages, people who are given different wages at different times. It is a biblical principle that, you know, if you agree to a term, you accept the term. You don't look over at your neighbor. Well, I started at 11 o'clock and these guys started at 7 and they're getting paid the same. That is to the giver's choice, the hiring's choice. And if you agree to it, you consent to it, then you have nothing to squabble about. Now, we're unequal in lots of different ways. We're unequal with our heights. We're unequal with our weights. We're unequal with our size, our hair. We're never all going to be equal. It's so silly to think that we'll all be equal in the same ways. We all have equal rights, though. But liberty produces inequality. That's a fascinating statement. And it's so true. It just hit me like a brick today. Something I wanted to mention also, my father-in-law, before I get to that, one of the things that these communists, one of the first things they do is remove our flags, remove our monuments, our statues, our history. And so that was something that was definitely noted. And so when Eldridge Cleaver would go to other colleges, if he didn't see a flag in the classroom, he asked, "Where is it?" And my father-in-law, when we started attending Arcata Calvary Chapel in its early days, I mean, we started going there in 1995. It's got a completely different name now and everything, but back then there was under a dozen people that went there for many years. And as it started to grow and my father-in-law moved out here, he noticed that they did not have a United States American flag. And as a veteran, he was highly offended. And fortunately, there was one that was instituted. Also, the Arcata Community Center when it was erected, they had to, there was veterans, they didn't have to, but there were veterans that did a fundraiser to see to it that there was an American flagpole and flag put out at that American Community Center, because it sure wasn't a priority for Arcata. Arcata was one of the first sanctuary cities that I know of in California. I've watched this community turncoat right before my eyes. They took the President McKinley statue out at the dead of night at the Arcata Plaza. That was right before COVID, when they were starting to remove all kinds of statues. It's the picture I have here. I can't seem to blow it up, but that's them taking it out at the dead of night. There's your first indicator, you guys. They want to removing our monuments, removing our flags. The Arcata Police Department had the Earth flag above the American flag for the longest time. They thought it was okay to just vote for it. You know, well, we'll get the town to vote for it, to remove the flag. It's now put back in its proper place, but for the longest time, the Earth flag flew above the United States of America, our country's flag. And for all of you greenies who worship Earth and the global agenda, you are the enemy. You are my enemy. You are the enemy of freedom. That is not, you worship Earth. You worship the creation. I worship the Creator. There's a big difference. You will find no freedom in your Earth worship. It will not come to you. Your rights are unalienable from God. They're not from Earth, okay? People take a vow and an oath to God, not to the government, okay? You don't understand because you don't read, probably. Let's see what else I have. So Booker T. Washington was one of the greatest leaders for the black people. He did not want handouts. He professed and was cautioning his community about the addiction to welfare. He set up the Tuskegee Institute to help lift people up with education. That is why I do what I do. I do believe that education is where we will thrive and get on the same page. Can we please get on the same page for the sake of peace? The pen is mightier than the sword. We are educated people. We can do this properly without violence. I don't care how many men think they're going to be taken to the streets with their guns and pew-pews when it's, well, I already said guns, but they're pew-pews. When the time comes, we're better than that. We have a foundation that is sure. We have a foundation that is sure. It is tried. It is tested. They went through many trials to give us this foundation. Lots of hours of studying, lots of vigorous debate. It said even sometimes violent debate. They hash these arguments out. If we were to study them, and we are, we could come to our own conclusions with all of the the misconnected dots that are there. What this kind of learning and reading has done for all of us is help us to fill in our own blanks and connect the dots of the big picture. That's why it's so fun, and I love it. Nobody is going to give you the template, people. Nobody is going to give it to you. You have to understand, and I need you guys to know why I'm doing this, is so that when and if the time comes and people just decide all of a sudden we have got to assemble, we have got to get together, you need to know the language, because it's all twisted and cluster fudged up on purpose, by design, to keep us confused, which is not of God. Confusion is of the devil, and to keep us ignorant. And we're better than that. We have a foundation that is sure. It is solid. It is tested. One other thing I wanted to point out today in our study is one of the first things that we learned was the ruler's law that was being used to put this government together. And I was talking with a really good guy yesterday. And hey, Chad, if you're watching, he was a really cool cat. And he had confessed to me that he's more of an anarchist. You know, he was not really into the art of the deal, which I know what that was. I think he was kind of poking and testing to see where I was on Trump. And I said, well, I'm not either. I don't put my faith in no man. You know, whether I think that was a good book or I didn't read it, I don't know. But I know it's related to Trump. I know what he was saying. And he confessed that he was more of an anarchist. Well, shoot, I am too. I'd rather be in an anarchist society where I can defend myself than under tyranny where I can't. But where we're supposed to be is right here in the middle for people's law. Our government was set up so that we would govern ourselves and not be under tyranny or under anarchy. And what we're living under right now is both tyranny and anarchy because the people are absent. We have not taken our duty and obligation very seriously to self-govern. And we're being governed. And that's why I'm doing the study too. Because I want to know what's up. And now I got to read. I forgot. I'm rambling on and on about this. Oh my goodness. How long am I doing this for? 20 minutes. Well, it's a very quick study today. Is Tina P in the house? Tina P. Girl. Good to see you. Hi, Jen. It was so good to talk to you this morning. I love you. I love you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. You are the wind in my sails. You all keep me going so much. You have no idea. All right, we're going to do a quick read. This is only like 6 pages or something, and it's great stuff. We all love hearing about equal rights. Equal rights, not equal things. And if you want to learn more about this, what I really learned about Hamilton and Madison's great differing positions on this, and the term general welfare, the clause general welfare was taken to the extreme with Hamilton. And Madison was like, no, but we're for less government. We don't want more government. And Hamilton took that general welfare clause and just decided that, you know, that means that everybody should be equal in their social status. That is not what this government was set up for. That is what this government was fleeing from. So here we go. We're going to read these. It's really quick today, you guys. So it's okay that I rambled on about that study. Worth it. It was so good, and I think we needed to learn about that. So, equal rights, not equal things. 7th principle in our study. There's 28 altogether. So, if you're just coming in, yay, welcome. The proper role of government is to protect equal rights, not provide equal things. In Europe, during the days of the founders, it was very popular to proclaim that the role of government was to take from the haves and give to the have-nots. Just wanted to check that screen there. What powers can be assigned to the government? The founders recognized that the people cannot delegate to their government the power to do anything except that which they have the lawful right to do themselves. For example, every person is entitled to protection of his life and property. Therefore, it is perfectly legitimate to delegate to the government the task of setting up a police force to protect the lives and property of all the people. But suppose a kind-hearted man saw that one of his neighbors had 2 cars while another neighbor had none. What would happen? Wait, is this? Yeah, okay. What would happen if, in a spirit of benevolence, the kind man went over and took one of the cars from his prosperous neighbor and generously gave it to the neighbor in need? Obviously, he would be arrested for car theft. No matter how kind his intentions, he is guilty of flagrantly violating the natural rights of his prosperous neighbor, who is entitled to be protected in his property. Of course, the 2-car neighbor could donate a car to his poor neighbor if he liked, but that is his decision and not the prerogative of the kind-hearted neighbor who wants to play Robin Hood. How governments sometimes commit legal crimes. But suppose the kind-hearted man decided to ask the mayor and city council to force the man with 2 cars to give one to his pedestrian neighbor. Does that make it any more legitimate? Obviously, this makes it even worse, because if the mayor and city council do it in the name of the law, the man who lost his car has not only lost the rights to his property, but since it is the law, he has also lost all right to appeal for help in protecting his property. The American founders recognized that the moment the government is authorized to start leveling the material possessions of the rich in order to have an equal distribution of goods, the government therefore has the power to deprive any of the people of their equal rights to enjoy their lives, liberties, and properties. A popular fallacy. Those on the receiving end of the program may think this is very just to take from the haves and give to the have-nots. They may say this is the way government provides equal justice for all. But what happens when the government comes around and starts taking from those who count themselves poor? They immediately declare with indignation that they have rights in the property the government gave them. The government replies, we decide who has rights in things. The power given to the government to take from the rich automatically canceled out the principle of guaranteed equal rights. It opened the floodgates for the government to meddle with everybody's rights, particularly property rights. When the communists seized power in Hungary, the peasants were delighted with the justice of having the large farms confiscated from their owners and given to the peasants. Later, the communist leaders seized 3/4 of the peasant land and took it back to set up government communal farms. Immediately, the peasants howled in protest about their property rights. Those who protested too loudly or too long soon found that they not only lost their land, but also lost their liberty. If they continued to protest, they lost their lives. The American founders took a different approach. Their policy was to guarantee the equal protection of all the people's rights and thus ensure that they would have the freedom to prosper. There was to be no special penalty for getting rich. The French philosophers cried out in protest, but then some of the people will become very rich. Indeed, they will, the founders might have responded. The more, the better. In fact, it was soon discovered that the new industrial age required large quantities of private funds in order to build factories, purchase complicated machinery and tools, and provide millions of jobs which had never existed before. The founders felt that America would become a nation dominated by a prosperous middle class with a few people becoming rich. As for the poor, the important thing was to ensure the freedom to prosper so that no one will be locked into poverty level the way people have been in all other parts of the world, making the whole nation prosperous. It was realized, of course, that some would prosper more than others. That is inevitable as long as there is liberty. Some would prosper because of talent, some because of good fortune, some because of an inheritance, but most would prosper because of hard work. The entire American concept of freedom to prosper was based on the belief that man's instinctive will to succeed in a climate of liberty would result in the whole people prospering together. It was thought that even the poor could lift themselves through education and individual effort to become independent and self-sufficient. The idea was to maximize prosperity, minimize poverty, and make the whole nation rich. Where people suffered the loss of their crops or became unemployed, the more fortunate were to help. And those who were enjoying good times were encouraged to save up in store for the misfortunes which seemed to come to everybody someday. Hard work, frugality, thrift, and compassion became the key words in the American ethic. What happened in America under these principles was remarkable in every way. Within a short time, the Americans as a people were on their way to becoming the most prosperous and best educated nation in the world, which was amazing to de Tocqueville when he arrived in 1831. They were also the freest people in the world. Eventually, the world found that they were also the most generous people on earth. And all of this was not because they were Americans. The founders believed these same principles would work for any nation. The key was using the government to protect equal rights, not to provide equal things. As previously mentioned, Samuel Adams said the ideas of a welfare state were made unconstitutional. The utopian schemes of leveling, redistribution of the wealth, and a community of goods, central ownership of all the means of production and distribution, are as visionary and impractical as those which vest all property in the crown. These ideas are arbitrary, despotic, and in our government, unconstitutional. Nevertheless, the founders had a deep concern for the poor and needy. As mentioned earlier, disciples of the collectivist left in the founders' day, as well as our own, have insisted that compassion for the poor requires that the federal government become involved in taking from the haves and giving to the have-nots. Benjamin Franklin had been one of the have-nots, and after living several years in England, where he saw government welfare programs in operation, he had considerable to say about these public charities of counterproductive compassion. Franklin wrote an essay on the subject and told one of his friends, "I have long been of your opinion that your legal provision for the poor in England is a very great evil, operating as it does to the encouragement of idleness. We have followed your example and begin now to see our error, and I hope shall reform it." A survey of Franklin's views on counterproductive compassion might be as follows. 1. Compassion which gives a drunk the means to increase his drunkenness is counterproductive. 2. Compassion which breeds debilitating dependency and weakness is counterproductive. 3. Compassion which blunts the desire or necessity to work for a living is counterproductive. 4. Compassion which smothers the instinct to strive and excel is counterproductive. Nevertheless, the founders recognized that it is a mandate of God to help the poor and underprivileged. It is interesting how they said this should be done. The founders' formula for calculated compassion, Franklin wrote, "To relieve the misfortunes of our fellow creatures is concurring with the deity. It is godlike, but if we provide encouragement for laziness and supports for folly, may we not be found fighting against the order of God and nature, which perhaps has appointed want and misery as the proper punishments for, and cautions against, as well as necessary consequences of, idleness and extravagance. Whenever we attempt to amend the scheme of providence and to interfere with the government of the world, we need be very circumspect, lest we do more harm than good." Nearly all of the founders seem to have acquired deep convictions that assisting those in need had to be done through means which might be called calculated compassion. Highlights from their writings suggest the following. 1. Do not help the needy completely. Merely help them to help themselves. And by the way, that's not in the Bible. Just saying. 2. Those who help themselves, God helps those who help themselves. That's not a biblical principle. It does say if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. Not that you shouldn't eat, but that you might not eat. Don't work, don't eat. It's like that. That's what it's like. 2. Give the poor the satisfaction of earned achievement instead of rewarding them without achievement. 3. Allow the poor to climb the appreciation ladder from tents to cabins, cabins to cottages, cottages to comfortable houses. 4. Where emergency help is provided, do not prolong it to the point where it becomes habitual. 5. Strictly enforce the scale of fixed responsibility. The first and foremost level of responsibility is with the individual himself. The second level is the family, then the church, next to the community, finally the county, and in a disaster or emergency, the state. Under no circumstances is the federal government to become involved in public welfare. The founders felt that it would be corrupt the government. The founders felt it would corrupt the government and also the poor. No constitutional authority exists for the federal government to participate in charity or welfare. By excluding the national government from intervening in the local affairs of the people, the founders felt they were protecting the unalienable rights of the people from abuse by an over-aggressive government. But just what are unalienable rights? And that will bring us to the next principle, which is principle number 9? No, it's 8. Men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. I wanted to look up the passage of the talents in the Bible. Not units and weights, but well, maybe it is. Where is it in the Bible? I don't know where everything is, okay? I do know where some things are. I don't want to read. Okay, back go. That is not what I'm looking for right here. Yes?
Are you driving?
Yeah. Are
to
you
the wrong
going?
place?
Yeah. Are you guys leaving?
I was thinking we wanted to go to Costco first.
Okay. I'm almost done in 5 minutes. I'm just
Okay.
finishing up my study. Say hi to my friend.
Okay.
Hi. Watch out for her.
Oops. I'm gonna leave the door open or not?
Shut it, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, doggy, get out.
No, she stays.
Okay.
She stays. Just leave it open. That's fine. I'll be done in just a couple minutes if you want to wait for me. But if you don't, that's fine.
We're leaving.
Okay. Bye.
See you down there.
Okay. Heidi. That's my uncle from Idaho. Some of you guys might have saw the Mother's Day video. This is what I'm looking for is the one where it talks about to whom much is given, much is required. This is it. Here it is. Okay, I found it. There's a couple verses in the Bible about talents, and you know, we are all given different talents. We are all given different talents, and when we really do tap into them, that is when we know that we're in tune. When everything is just flowing right, you know. One of my talents is I can read. I can do some computer work. I can speak. I have a big, bold mouth. You know, I have a lot of talents I've honed in on and recognized, like, okay, I don't see these with everybody. And other people have talents that I don't have. It's a beautiful thing that's why I think I love meeting new people and just getting to know them and, you know, just encouraging them in their talents. It's a mindset, and it's a great way to think about other people. Right now, our culture is all about compare, compete, and conquer. And I want to highly encourage you to consciously reject that. Reject the programming, reject the constant subliminal messages, even outward messages to do that. COVID was the worst thing that happened as far as watching people treat other people inhumane and thinking that they had rights over other people's bodies that they'll never have. Ever. So we need to fix this, because what I'm hearing from people about our medical community right now is horrifying. It's been horrifying since COVID, and it was probably even more horrifying before COVID. But I want to leave you guys with this passage. Now Jesus is speaking another parable. A certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas, and said to them, do business till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent delegation after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. And so it was when he returned, having received the kingdom, he then commanded those servants to whom he gave the money to be called to him, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Master, your mina has earned 10 minas. And he said to him, well done, good servant, because you were faithful in very little. Have authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Master, your mina has earned 5 minas. Likewise he said to him, you also be over 5 cities. Then another came, saying, Master, here is your mina, which I have kept put away in a handkerchief. For I feared you, because you are an austere man. You collect what you did not deposit, and you reap what you did not sow. And he said to him, out of your own mouth I will judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was an austere man, collecting what I did not deposit, and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not put my money in the bank, that at my coming I might have collected it with interest? And he said to those who stood by, take the mina from him, and give it to him who has 10 minas. But they said to him, Master, he has 10 minas. For I say to you that everyone who has will be given, and from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. But bring those enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them, and slay them before me. Ooh. It's not exactly the passage I was looking for, but it's definitely gives... The main point is, to whom much is given, much is required. That is the verse I wanted to sit on and just say, we all have talents. We all have talents that God has given us. They're not all the same. They're not all equal. They're different. Liberty produces inequality. It's awesome. So I pray you guys are safe, healthy, protected today. I don't know when I'll see you again. I have some company, obviously, for a bit. And so it's all about family right now. But I did get to squeeze this in. I almost blew it off. It would have been super easy to blow off. But I love this study. I love spending time with you guys. It's super fun for me. And, but I do have some other things I definitely want to talk about with Humboldt County. There's a lot of things that are just kind of brewing and boiling in my mind. And, you know, I don't know when that'll be, but it's coming soon. It's definitely coming soon. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here and for studying with me and learning with me. It's always a pleasure, and it is my honor to bring this study to you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.